Good morning. This is Kevin Hensel, owner of Fit for Life Training Studio, and I'm here for my weekend health chat. And I had a client come up to me this week, and they were talking to me about their strength training routine. And after talking to them for a few minutes, I kind of realized they didn't really understand what strength training was and what all those kind of secrets to get maximum benefit from strength training were. So I thought you could really benefit from it because you got to watch this because there's a lot of stuff people do that's a real waste of their time. And to get maximum benefit in minimum time, you really have to maximize your strength routine. And just to clarify what strength training is, because I think there's some confusion about what exactly it is. It's any kind of specific movement pattern that you're going to go to fatigue within a 30 to 60 second time frame. It can be one rep and you can be up to about 20 or 30 reps. Anything more than 30 reps is a waste of your time. And if you're not taking the set to the point of what we call failure in the industry, there's positive and negative failure. There's positive failures when you just can't physically lift the weight, safely with one more rep. And then there's negative failure where to the point where somebody's lifting the weight up for you and you can't even come down slowly anymore and control it at all. So most people can take, by themselves, can take a resistance to positive failure, which is the point where you really just can't safely do it one more repetition. And people just don't realize if you don't take that set to failure, you're kind of wasting your time. The whole point of strength training is to take it to a point of failure. Of course, there's some caveats to that. If you have joint problems, joint irritation, and if you take an exercise to joint failure, you get joint pain. Obviously, you have to restrict that. But the less intense you make a strength training exercise, the more sets and reps you have to do for it. So just know that strength training, if you're doing something and you're not taking, like I see a lot of people do weights with like 2 or 3 pounds and they do bicep curls and all these things, but if you're not taking that, if that weight doesn't get you fatigued in that 30 to second time frame, in that 1 to 20 rep is really optimal, that 1 to 20 rep range, then you're wasting your time. And that's what this client I was referring to is kind of just told me their weights and how many reps they're doing, and I go, I don't really care about the weights and the reps. I care about, are you going to failure? And you want to get your point for optimal weight loss and optimal muscle toning and firming. You want to be at about the 12 to 20 rep range. That's when you're going to get the most cellular adaptations, and you're working on muscular endurance as well as the most cellular changes, which is for somebody who's looking to lose weight or toning and firming, which is about 90% of everybody. That's about the rep range you want to be in, and the most important thing of anything I'm going to mention today is taking it to a point of failure. And that failure just means you can't safely lift that, whether it's a tube, your body weight, whether it's a dumbbell, a strength training piece of equipment like a lat pull down or a chest press. It doesn't matter the machine, you have to take it to the point of failure. If not, then you have to go heavier to the point that you do get to that point of failure. If you have chronic joint pain and arthritis, of course you might need to stop a little bit earlier so you don't get to that point of failure because your joints might give out before then. But that's okay. Just know that if you can't take it to the point of failure, you just might need to do, instead of optimally about 3 sets, you might need to do 4 or 5 because you can't take it to that point of failure to get the same kind of benefit that you would if you could. So to me, I'm a bigger fan of, I'd like to get in, get out, get it the hell done with. That's just, I'm too busy. I got a lot of crazy crap I need to do. One of which is, run this business. And as a trainer and running Fit for Life for over 20 years, I don't have a lot of time, and I don't think you do either. So if I can go to point of failure and finish maybe in 2 sets, wouldn't you rather do 2 sets to go into really hard effort, higher intensity level, than doing 4 or 5 sets? I mean, that's kind of pointless. So those are the keys to strength training that nobody really kind of tells you about. And I was talking to this woman as well, and she was mentioning how she thought, for tightening and toning, she thought it's better to split her body parts and just do like chest tri on one day, then back and biceps on another day, and then legs will be another day altogether. And it's kind of a caveat. It doesn't matter how you pair your body parts. It matters the intensity at which you work out, which I'm going back to what I said in the beginning. Intensity dictates how you should pair your body parts. If you work out the failure and you just do your body part once a week, that might be enough for weight loss and toning and firming. Might be enough. But if you can do your body parts 3 times a week and do a full upper-lower routine, you could probably get better benefit doing a full upper-lower body routine, taking it to failure, than you could with just doing your body parts once a week. And the key is intensity. It always comes down to intensity. if you can push harder and get to that point where you just can't lift and you're getting in that 12 to 20 rep range, which is the optimal rep range for cellular adaptations and muscular endurance, as well as the cellular adaptations, which is going to be best for weight loss as well as for toning and firming, you can do a full upper lower body 3 times a week and get crazy amount of benefit. You can also do it once a week, but you're going to have to hit really hard. And basically when you split body parts, you're just doing more sets per those body parts. That's basically it. So it's instead of doing a full upper lower, you're doing a chest and tricep. Just that day is basically chest and triceps. Optimally, you want to get about 3 to 4 days of strength training in per week. And you just want to make sure one of the keys to strength training is not training the same muscle group on back-to-back days, which can be a little tricky sometimes. So just make sure if you're working out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just know that you can't train the same muscle groups on back-to-back days. So on Monday, you would have to split your routine if you're doing back-to-back strength training days, just because you don't want to get into repetitive stress issues. If you do strength train the same muscle group on back-to-back days, you are opening yourself up for chronic overuse injuries, so arthritis, bursitis, tendonitis. A lot of those tendinitises are going to start kicking in, and joint and inflammatory conditions are going to start kicking in. So you want to be smart in how you space it, and you're just not going to have the muscle recovery and recuperation that's going to be optimal for weight loss, as well as recovery, so you can work out the next day. And strength training, sometimes people get confused what strength training contains. Is sometimes strength training is snuck into exercises and routines that you think are cardio based. And just to give you an example, a lot of people, let's say, do yoga, or they do a kickboxing class. They don't realize that when they're doing the squats and the lunges in yoga and the push-ups that they do, and now yoga incorporates a lot of power yoga movements, which is a lot of just traditional strength training movements. But if you're doing squats, you're doing lunges, you're doing push-ups, you're doing strength training. So just know that if you're doing something you think is cardio, because I know this person and several other people told me, oh yeah, I'm doing a boot camp class at my gym, and then I'm seeing you guys for my strength routine the next day, and I'm like, oh no, that's not a good idea at all, because most traditional, even group sessions now at gyms, incorporate strength training into it. So like I said, if you're doing squats, you're doing lunges, you're doing anything with a dumbbell or a resistance, elastic resistance, a tube, a stability ball, you're doing strength training. You just probably don't realize it's strength training. You might not be taking it to that point of failure, but it doesn't matter. You're still strength training. You need that muscle recovery and recuperation. So don't do the same muscle group on back-to-back days. That's one of the keys. And that's where, if you're going to do a full upper-lower routine, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule works great, or a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday works great. You can do cardiovascular work on back-to-back days. And like cardiovascular classes that are great, that don't usually incorporate any type of strength training, is usually spinning is great. I would say cardio kickboxing, but they do a lot of squats and lunges usually in those classes. And like I said, nowadays with yoga, they do a lot of squats and lunges and push-ups in yoga classes too. So you have to be really smart in how you pair your body parts and how often you work out. And what you think is a traditional cardiovascular routine isn't. And there's components of strength thrown in. And if there are components of strength thrown in, the next day you don't want to strength train again for the muscle groups that you did that day. So I know this sounds very confusing, but you have to be smart. And like I said, muscle recovery and recuperation is a pivotal part of strength training. And if you're going to take it to a point of failure, which is what I've been kind of pushing for all this time, is you have to get there. If you're taking it to failure, your body needs that extra time to repair, recover. And if you don't, you're just going to exacerbate some potential inflammatory conditions, like I've mentioned, like bursitis, tendonitis, and all the arthritises and all the other itises out there that are just going to cause joint pain and joint inflammatory issues. So be smart. Another thing I see people do with strength training is they seem to want to strength train. I know deep down, you can't spot reduce. And if you don't, I don't know where you've been, but you can't spot reduce. And I know that people, even though they philosophically know that they can't get rid of belly fat just by doing crunches, they still do it. And it's just, I don't know if it just makes you feel good to target an area. Like I know for sometimes some of our female clients, I don't hate to be a sexist, they might want to work their, the bottom of their arm, so they want to work on triceps. They might do it on their hips, so they want to work their butt. Because that might be where you have a deposit of fat accumulation for them, and everybody's a little different. But targeting that area and the muscles underneath where the fat is does absolutely nothing. You're going to lose more from your hips and your triceps doing a upper body exercise or doing your leg exercise or doing your bicep will help you lose from here because you want to add lean body mass to your whole body. And that's the whole point of strength training is by adding lean body mass, by adding leaner, denser muscle to your body, not necessarily bigger, but leaner, denser muscle, you're going to have you speed up your metabolism. And the higher your metabolism, the more lean body mass and muscle tissue you have, the faster your metabolism is, the more that you burn at rest. So, I mean, that's what strength training is all about. And that's why it's a much more effective tool at weight loss than cardiovascular is. But going back to the spot reduction thing, everybody says, oh, I got to keep working my abs. And they work their abs every single workout. And I'm like, why? Unless you have a chronic back issue, there's really no reason. And a lot of the stupid exercises people do for core, they're doing crunches and leg raises and all those things, which are, great exercises, but they really don't. You can't get rid of fat by training the muscle underneath it. So why would you even try? So focus on getting your whole body done and doing all the muscle groups in your whole body instead of just focusing on the areas you want to lose it from, because it doesn't matter how strong the muscle is under the fat. It's not going to help you lose weight there. It's not going to make the fat go away there faster. So, and I know, unfortunately, philosophically, people know that. I hope they do at least. But I just know that people just love to focus on their trouble areas thinking that it helps them, and it really doesn't. You'll do much more benefit to losing weight from your tricep by doing an exercise for your chest, doing an exercise for your upper back and your lats, for doing a leg exercise, and that to lose it from your tricep, because like I said, the more muscle you have everywhere, the more that you will burn fat from those trouble areas. So don't get caught up in spot reduction. And I know people always go, oh, I gotta do my core work, Do your core work once a week. If you want to really focus in on it, just do a couple exercises once a week. If you want to throw in maybe one exercise a workout, that's fine. Just more for back preservation and for back stabilization and balance, and crunches and leg raises. That doesn't do crap. Do things like planks, side planks, things that are going to work on functional stability, balance and core stability. So doing things off the stability ball, doing things off the Bosu, things that are going to make you shaky. Those are the things that have much more benefit to you. And like I said, if you can't spot reduce, why the hell waste your time spending, 10, I see people doing 10 or 15 minutes of core work, and I'm like, why? Unless you, like I said, have a real chronic low back imbalance or some kind of postural imbalance, it's kind of a waste of time. So just don't waste your time, for God's sakes. And going into the cardio thing, I know most people think, oh, I gotta lose weight, I gotta do cardio. I just made a video last week of why cardio is a waste of your time. And I still want to let you know about that in strength training. It's true. If you have a choice between strength training and cardio, always do strength training, because it has a much bigger impact on the short term and long term of you losing weight. That you gaining lean body mass and gaining muscle is the most pivotal part of weight loss, and people don't really kind of absorb that. They always go, oh, I'm not losing weight, I gotta do more cardio, and I'm like, why? You'll get much more benefit meal prepping and meal planning for the next few days, and spending that 45 minutes going to the grocery store, getting your fresh fruits and veggies and your lean proteins and all that fun stuff, and doing some food prep that day, than you ever would doing cardio. And cardio, God, you have to do cardio about 45 to 60 minutes, 6 to 7 days a week, doing running, not walking. Walking isn't going to do it. Walking might take 1 month of walking almost every day each week, and you lose 1 pound. And I don't know about you, unless you can run and burn anywhere from 500 to 1,000 calories every cardio session, which is incredibly intense, by the way. Like a spinning class for an hour is going to burn about maybe 700. Running might burn about 500 or 600. So an hour. So you have to burn enough calories to make it effective. That's why cardio is just so inefficient, because what if you wake up, you don't feel like doing it? You just don't burn those calories, so you don't burn that fat. But the strength training, if you can do a strength training, you can get a pretty good strength training in about 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm talking balls out, all in, intensity to the max. You can do that, and you can do a lot of that with just your own body weight and some elastic tubes and resistance. So you don't need a lot of equipment to get a great strength training routine. But you can do that in 15, 20 minutes, 3 times a week, and get way more benefit and add that lean body mass to your body. So when you don't strength train, you still have the benefit, because when you don't strength train, it's not like all the muscle you got from strength training disappears in that day. It takes several weeks of not doing a strength training routine for the muscle to slowly dissipate, but it will if you don't keep strength training. So you can get a lot more bang for your buck doing strength training. So if your choice is strength training, cardio, choose strength training. And I hate to say, if you're strength training, cardio, or meal planning will always have way bigger impact on weight loss and toning and firming. So always prioritize your time. And I'm a trainer telling you not to work out. But if you're limited for time and you keep saying, oh, I don't have time to work out, so what? Then spend your time meal prepping, because that will give you the biggest return on your investment in time. I think that kind of wraps up all of my things about the strength training benefits. So just to give you a quick summary, if you're strength training, make sure you don't strength training the same muscle group on back-to-back days. That's pivotal. And splitting your body parts and doing like chest tri on one day and back bi on the other. And you can also do chest, back, and arms another day. But just once again, remember, if you're doing chest and back one day, you don't want the next day to be arms, because when you do chest and back, you're inherently doing your arms. So you need that, remember, at least like a 36 to 48 hour rest between strength training the same muscle group. That's where this gets a little tricky sometimes. So you want to focus on, you can get great benefit with a strength routine doing full upper lower routines 3 times a week. If you're going to start doing like 4 times a week, then you're going to need to start splitting some body parts, because you just couldn't get to that point of not training the same muscle group on back-to-back days. And the importance of strength training, the most pivotal part, is intensity. Take it to a point where you just can't lift that weight anymore. And I know there's a lot of people, there's a big proponents of people going out there doing compound muscle groups, and doing like multiple muscles at the same time. And I like compound movements, but I also like isolation type movements. And isolation just means you're just like one muscle group you're working that time. Like say a squat is hitting your knees, your hips, all at the same time. So there's several different muscle groups going on, which is great with a strength training routine. But you also want some isolation exercises as well. So exercises are just focusing on the hamstrings, which isn't a lunge, it's a bridge. A lot of people think when they do leg work, the more muscles you throw in, the better, which it's to a point, yes. But you also, I guarantee you have inhibited muscle groups in your legs, like your gluteus minimus medius, which are the side of your butt cheek muscles. You also have your hamstrings. It's the inner part of your hamstrings called the semimembranosus and tendinosus, which is a lot weaker than the outer part of your hamstring, which is the bicep femoris. There's things you need to do to strengthen those inhibited muscle groups that you can't isolate doing compound movement patterns like squats and lunges and things along those lines. So if you're broken and you have a lot of joint issues, you have to do joint muscle isolations. And like I said, that's just, you would probably need a professional such as myself to help out in those situations. So just know, the more compound a movement is, the more likely you are to potentially hurt yourself. But it's also hard to, one of the things I haven't gone into, which I should, it's the MindBody Connection. It's basically, you want to basically be able to isometrically squeeze a muscle. And when you're taking a muscle to fatigue and failure, you want to first of all know what body parts should you be feeling it in when you're doing a specific exercise. And you want to make sure you're feeling that burn. Like if you're doing 12 to 20 reps, you want to get to a point of a muscle burn. You won't get a burn if you're just doing 4 to 6 reps, which is great for strength building. It's more of a neurological adaptation. And if you're doing like 6 to 12 reps, you're more going for muscle hypertrophy to get the muscle bigger. You might not get to a burn in that 6 to 12 rep range, but the 12 to 20 rep range, which is optimal for weight loss and optimal for toning and firming, you will get to a muscle burn, and that's just the buildup of lactic acid. You want to get to that point, and that is a very good thing. So just make sure when you're doing these exercises that you're training them in the way that you want to see your muscular changes. So make sure that your rep range is correct. And the more compound a movement gets, you just don't know what muscles, like sometimes if you're doing, like I hate to say, doing like a squat and a lunge, there's a lot of stuff going on. You'll probably feel it primarily in front of your thighs and your quadriceps. But there's a lot more going on too. There's your hips are kicking in, your gluteals are kicking in, your hamstrings are firing. So there's so many things happening. It's hard to feel muscle failure. And it's also hard to know exactly where you're supposed to feel it. So I'm a big fan of incorporating some isolation exercises from a corrective standpoint. And also, it's just nice to know that you're isolating one body part at a time so you can connect the brain with the muscle that's supposed to be, getting fatigued. And if there's at least like 10 or 15 different muscles that are supposed to be kicking in at the same time, you really can't make the brain, it's called, like you're getting like a kinesthetic awareness. It's basically your body's awareness that the muscle is working and it's moving in space. You want to know that, and you want to know that the muscle's working and that you'll be able to isolate it. To me, I think that's a lot of that gets missed in kind of today's like hit every muscle group all at the same time in every single exercise. So sometimes you want to break it down and get a little bit more isolationist, we'll call it, and isolate those muscle groups. So compound movements are great, but you also want to sneak in some isolation movement patterns. So let's say an isolation movement pattern might be a bicep curl where you're just curling, or just a tricep push down where you're coming down, whether it's a tube or a band, it doesn't matter the resistance type. So just know that compound movements are great, but so are isolation movements. Don't think isolation movements are a waste, because you can actually connect your brain to, okay, I feel my triceps. Oh yeah, there's my tricep. But when you're doing a push-up and things along those lines, you might feel your push-ups. When you're doing a push-up, you're going to feel it in front of your shoulder, and your anterior deltoid, your triceps. You're going to feel it in your pecs. You might feel it everywhere. You might feel it in your low back. Because there's so many other more muscle groups kicking in, and sometimes when you're doing big compound movements, you just can't isolate and know exactly where you're supposed to feel it because you're feeling it everywhere. And that doesn't always get the mind to brain connection going. And that is actually important. That's something that kind of a lot of people gloss over, and then I kind of glossed over a little bit when I first jumped into this. So basic summary. Remember, for weight loss, toning, firming, you want about 12 to 20 reps. You want to finish that set in about 30 to 45 seconds. Anything longer than like a 60-second set is starting to hit a different energy system and not going to get you the benefit that you're looking for, which is to get that leaner, denser muscle. You want to also make sure you're not strength training on back-to-back days. So make sure if you are doing training back-to-back days, you have to split your body parts. So general rule, don't strength train the same muscle group on back-to-back days. You can strength train on back-to-back days, just know you have to split your body parts at that point. That's really primarily it, and just know that you might get more benefit doing a full upper-lower body routine instead of splitting it. Even if you're talking about toning and firming, you have to try both. See what gives you the biggest bang for your buck. A lot of people always think that if they split their body parts and do more sets for their chest, so one day is chest try, they do, let's say, 5 sets for their chest, maybe 5 sets for their tries, or 3 or 4 sets for their tries, thinking that's better than doing 3 full upper lower body routines. Not necessarily. You really should mix it up, to be perfectly honest, to kind of trick your body, because the more you keep doing the same thing, and you want to kind of mix up your strength routines about every 4 to 6 weeks. That will give your body enough time to adjust, adapt, get stronger, and then you mix it up. And then your body's like, oh my God, what the heck's happening? So the more you mix it up on your strength training routine, the better, because you just don't want your body to get acclimated to it and start to not see results anymore. Constantly changing it called muscle confusion. It's a great little paradigm, great training technique to constantly keep mixing it up so your body never gets used to it. So your body keeps adapting and getting stronger, and it doesn't go into stagnation and plateaus. So that's it. Done boring you guys. I think that question that my client had earlier, I think I answered that and gave it quite a bit more. I know there's a lot more I can talk about in these little health chats. So if you have a topic you want me to chitter chat about next week, just let me know. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. And if you need me for anything, just let me know. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend.